infrastructure project with a huge demand for investments. The infrastructure capital investment alone is massive. However, we have huge latent potential for attracting and retaining investments. The highly underexploited cross-border tourism and trade, trans-border resources such as lakes, rivers, are significant contributors to the betterment of our livelihoods. We are very optimistic of the transformation that will come about through LAPSSET Corridor Program due to the complementary principles. We are looking at creating seamless connectivity from industrial parks in Ethiopia, such as Hawassa Industrial Park, to evacuation of rich natural resources, such as crude oil in Lokichar and Southern Sudan. We appreciate that the LAPSSET Corridor Program directly contributes to the aspirations of the African's Union Agenda 2063. There are many and broad initiatives, such as having an African integrated high-speed railway network that will see connectivity of Africa's capital cities and megacities. These are important decisions that require our deeper engagement, that we may reap bigger and better benefits going forward. Through this forum, I'm sure that such and each and everyone will ensure the task at hand, the huge potential and opportunities with the different project components, and the desire to create viable and lasting relationships with each other, the investors, and our development partners in making future initiatives more rewarding and better. I gladly invite you to consider the breadth and richness of this menu within the context of a program such as LAPSSET Corridor Program. It has a rich menu and responds to the multiple thematic areas while advancing the continental development aspirations. We therefore welcome you to come and invest in the corridor projects and also within the corridor. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, let me most sincerely thank each one of you who has made time to be with us today and to contribute to this great cause. I also wish you fruitful and in-depth deliberations that will help in realization of the development of a vibrant LAPSSET Corridor Program with efficient transport systems to support exploitation of the existing potentials and promotion of the blue economy. Before I conclude, let me also say one more thing. And that is, we started LAPSSET Corridor as a concept many years ago. From being a concept to a reality. And for this, governments must put where money, where the mouth is. Because we can talk about a concept forever and ever. You have to demonstrate as governments. That's why I'm so happy to have my sister here from Ethiopia. Because it is governments who demonstrate confidence. Without government demonstrating confidence, the private sector will not come in. They want to see that what government is saying, they mean it. And for us, our sister country, Ethiopia, I believe we have gone a long way in demonstrating that confidence. For example, for us here in Kenya, if I could talk about our side of the border, we have demonstrated this by doing a number of things. Number one, for the Lamu port, we said that eventually we shall have 32 berths at the Lamu port, which should ideally be done by the private sector. But for the private sector to come in, they must see what the government has done. And so we started the first 3 berths with our own money, despite our budgetary constraints. The first berth will be completed by June next year. It's already about 65% complete. And this is also under construction. Yesterday, we had spent a lot of time with our partners discussing how we shall start implementing that project from Lamu all the way to Isiolo. And then, of course, we do have Isiolo, Lokicha, and all the way to, all the way to the southern Sudan border. And that's a long stretch as well. On our part as government, that stretch from Isiolo to Lokicha, which is the oil fields, designs have been completed. We have the DG of Kenha here, who will tell you designs have been completed. And whether we get funding or not from partners, we shall do that road to link Isiolo to the oil fields. And then the oil fields all the way to southern Sudan. I'm glad to report we've got partners, development partners, the World Bank, ADB, all those partners have lined up lots, and financing agreements have been finalized to complete that stretch. And so with that, we shall be having a corridor, which you can call a corridor. In yesterday's session, with the professor here, I said, by doing so. Because by doing so, you reap the benefits together with the government of Kenya. Even small links, like coming from the port out to join this corridor, 10 kilometers, we are not leaving anything to chance. That road has been advertised by Kenya to make sure that we can make sure that no single inch is left unconnected for the entire corridor. And then finally, eventually, we shall do the railway as well. The SGR, feasibility study, has been completed by a company called ECC from Lamu all the way to Sudan and also to Ethiopia to do a standard gauge railway. Of course, that will be a huge commitment, and so we are in the process of, but the feasibility study has been completed. The idea is to make sure that we put all this as a package. And so, as you can see, we can go on and on and on.
not only are we going to put our money there, we will actually embed this in our development plan. So that no matter the government that comes in, no matter the time period, money is guaranteed towards this project. We are pushing this for the other two countries. Now, quickly, I know how to move this. Okay, yeah. Yeah, quickly, this is essentially the LAPSSET economy. So that we are not talking in a vacuum. We are not asking you to come and buy a bridge in Arizona. This is the economy. It's intermodal infrastructure, railroad, pipelines, linking the three countries, and beyond that, taking it to Central Africa and from there beyond. Over 20,000 hectares of water area for port docking and for anchorage. The channel, 500 meters. Now, this is important. If you know about Mombasa, when a ship is going this way, another one is coming this way, one has to wait for the other. This Lamu, you can just go your way, this other one can go on its way, and you know what that means in terms of dock operation, in terms of waiting period and all that. The opportunities is for 250 million people in the sub-region. Airports, seaports, resort cities, special economic zones, industrial parks, mineral exploration, free trade zone. This is one reason we are saying you cannot do all of this just through an ad hoc arrangement. These things have to be planned and embedded in development plans. Otherwise, you will not be able to do what it is. Furthermore, the 32 batch, you already know that. The port itself is about 1,000 acres in size. 1,000 acres. 18 meters deep. Economic zones in Ethiopia. 6 express lanes linking Addis Ababa to Mojo, as you have seen. Awasa trade zone in Ethiopia. Oil pipelines planned from Juba to Lamu. Now, the planning imperative, this is one of the things we are pushing, it is that you have to plan it. LAPSSET here, and this is nothing against engineers, architects, and surveyors, but the LAPSSET is coordinated by planners. The advantage of that is that there's no over-concentration on systems engineering, on materials engineering, on the integrity of survey. It is planned, coordinated, so that we have a broader and coherent perspective. The master plan involves structuring the budget, investment plan, environmental impacts, agriculture, agro-business, urbanization, livestock, fisheries, and so on and so forth. So my own personal thing, and it's supported by evidence, is that when planners handle this, you have a plan. If engineers have it, you have engineering. Surveyors have it, you have survey. But we are looking for something that coordinates everything, your lake resources, mineral exploration, and all of that. So if it has to be embedded in plans, let it be coordinated by planners. And include cities and interland planning, partnership planning, all of this embedded in Kenya's Vision 2030, which is why Kenya spends close to $100 million a year for this thing. Now, then you were asking, and we got this from investors, Africa is too risky. It is too risky for investment. Because you do this, you do that, there's a change of government, I lose my money. That's why. Secondly, you say you have too many laws. You have too many policies and regulations. They all contradict. If we are going to do a transboundary project from one country to the other, we have to speak 10,000 languages. We have to deal with customs and all that. We don't need it. So we went to African heads of state, and they asked us to develop a coherent framework, one framework that will harmonize all these laws, all these policies, all these regulations. All these things will be harmonized in one simple framework, to the point that when you are able to adopt this framework, then you don't need to worry about speaking Kiswahili before you invest in Kenya, because the law you've already embraced it. So we had this decision of the African Union, Decision 563, which says we should accelerate the Dakar Agenda for Action, enhance private sector investment, promote industrialization of the African continent through transboundary investment, infrastructure. So the law that we developed, the model law, was to facilitate private sector investment and financing in transboundary infrastructure projects, ensure transparency, efficiency, accountability, all of those things that the private sector cares about. Harmonize cross-border regulation of transboundary infrastructure projects. This is great. These are the things we got from our heads of state. And lastly, to promote intra-African trade and open domestic markets to international trade. Now, this is what we came up with in 8 sections and 23 articles. And I pay attention, investors, because this answers every last concern you have about investing in any African country. It takes out what you call the risk. It takes out what you call the duplicity and the divergent laws, policies across. Now, what we have there, I will just go through it. We have, of course, general provision, which is the environmental and social standards, the appointment of the project regulator, investment assurances and protections, free movement of entities, personnel, goods, and services, procurement issues, funds, finance, accounts, and fiscal regime, and lastly, what happens when you disagree with the project or with the owner of the project, the whole issue of dispute resolution. I just have a few of these just to let you know what we are talking about. Section 3, Article 8, free movement of entities, personnel, goods, and services. It says any entity registered, incorporated, or permitted to carry on business under the laws of any African country may participate in transboundary infrastructure projects in Africa. Anyone. Nothing in this act shall prohibit foreign participation. And look at Section 4, it says any entity registered, incorporated, or permitted to carry on business under this model law shall be exempt from complying with any national legislation on the establishment of businesses provided that such entity is registered for tax purposes in an African country. Free movement of personnel, Article 9, says the local content requirement contained herewith shall not apply to employment of senior management, including but without limitation the finance director, managing director, and other senior personnel charged with day-to-day management responsibility. So you cannot say, oh, I only want Kenyans in this as finance director. You cannot say this. If it's transboundary and you adopt this law, it means that everybody is open. You have to, it's on merit, completely on merit. And quickly on immigration, the government of say for example Kenya shall not unreasonably deny entry visa for any personnel or officer of the regulator working on a transboundary project. The government of that country shall not unreasonably deny entry visa, expiry quotas, etc. for any project worker working on this project. So the underlying thing is unreasonable. That does not mean if we think that you have a credential of a terrorist that Kenya should let you in. So it has to be reasonable. Free movement of goods and services. The project vehicle and its subcontractor shall be exempt from payment of import duties, taxes, and all other duties, levies, or charges, and other taxes of similar nature in respect of goods necessary for the use. Yeah, you can bring in your tractors, your caterpillars, your this and that, if they are meant for this. Of course, it also says that at the end, you either donate it or you take it out. You cannot say, oh, I finished this project, this caterpillar costs $20 million, I'm going to sell it on the open market for $5 million. That would be a problem. Now, quickly on procurement standards. Article 12, in the awards of procurement contracts and concession, the AFO is the recommended regulator, shall adopt the procurement standards and guidelines set out in UNCITRA, that's the United Nations Commission on International Trade Model Procurement Standard, as may be amended from time to time. 13, guiding principles. We maximize economy and efficiency, foster and encourage participation in procurement processes, fair competition, transparency, and disclosure. equality, non-discrimination treatment. The government shall accord to investment by the project vehicle or investors treatment not less favorable than that accorded to the investment and associated activities of its own national. No discrimination. Protection, security of your investment. The government shall not directly or indirectly by law otherwise expropriate, nationalize, or take similar measures tantamount to expropriation or nationalization, except if it serves as a public good made on a non-discriminatory basis, it's in accordance with due process of the law and procedure, and upon payment of prompt, adequate, and effective compensation. We all know the whole law of eminent domain. These are the last 2 or 3 or so. Financing, government of the country shall provide credit guarantees to the project vehicle. This is important to the private sector. Fiscal regime shall be, all infrastructure projects shall be subject to the tax regime determined and agreed by the parties of origin. Number 3, there says no custom duties shall be applied otherwise than in accordance with the provisions under 11, that is the free movement of goods and services. Now, what happens when you disagree? Settlement of disputes. The Article 20 says where there is a dispute arising from or connected with or related to this law between the country and the project vehicle and investor, the parties concerned shall use good faith. That's the first step. Use good faith to reach an amicable settlement. Secondly, any dispute arising from or connected with or related to this project between the country, the project vehicle, and investor that is not resolved within 90 days from the date of receipt of the written declaration of dispute by the respondent shall be submitted to international arbitration in accordance with UNCITRAL. Now, this is how you settle it. The claimant appoints one arbitrator. The respondent appoints one arbitrator. And together, the 2 of them shall appoint the judge who will preside over the tribunal. If they don't agree, the General Council of the African Union shall appoint the 3rd arbitrator. Now, just so that you know, this is the force of policy now at the highest level in the country. In January 2018, African presidents endorsed this model for domestication. So we now can go to Kenya and say, Kenya, look at this. It's a model law because you don't have to take all the 23 articles. You can take the ones that agree with you, whatever helps you raise money. You take it. You can say Section 7, this one does not agree with existing bilateral arrangement with the European Union. Forget about it. If you don't need it at all, it's also fine. That means you are already attracting enough investment. But just so that you know, that in his decision 685, January 2018, the African Union has already done this. Now, how do you use this law? Now, it is critical to understand that, and we had this from all the countries. We've taken this to DRC, Burundi, Zambia, and Rwanda. Yeah. Now, some of the questions that came up. No, the DRC legislator says, I am the chairman of the committee, I am this and that. You don't make laws for us. It's correct. This law does not have any supranational powers at all. It will not supplant your national laws. In fact, it is to supplement whatever you think is weak. If private sector people say, we have problems bringing our money here because of this, you can say, well, this project is PIDA model law compliant. You can do this, you can do that because we have already, your money is safe, bring your money. What we don't want are of these people, scavengers, who come in for 3 years and they take all the money out. That is not investment. We want people who have a lot of faith in the economy. So you can cherry pick, you can pick whatever you want and say, this is what I don't want. Now, we need to rekindle conversations on private sector, and we think this one helps to start that. It also strengthens your existing mechanism. Now, in terms of the whole thing about blended finance, we all know what that means. We have somebody who's going to be speaking to that in 2 days or so. Strategic use of development finance and philanthropic funds. So the money is in a basket. Now you can use it to do preparation projects, all of those things that we say are not common. The PIDA model will aid that. It's also a strategic business tool to enhance the appetite of the investor who is interested in transboundary infrastructure. Lastly, PIDA model law directly addresses perceived or real risks, because some of these risks are not real. Some of these risks they're talking about, they're just product of fear. But you know, we don't argue with people who have their money, who want to bring in the thing. We think that we should rise up to their challenge. So we can de-risk with this. Yeah, this one. Now, the next steps. What do we do next? We want to forge partnerships at all levels in order to enhance implementation and buy-in. We want to inform member states about this decision, that it is already a decided event by Africa Resource State, so we do not have to worry about whether somebody will change or not. We want to commence sensitization and advocacy, carry out targeted law, policy, and regulatory mapping so that we know exactly what obtains, what you are committed to by virtue of your present laws and so on. Now, we want to encourage stakeholder engagement, then integrate the law at the end in the national legislation. It does not exist on its own. It has to be integrated in order for it to have the force of law. It has to be integrated in your national legislation. That is the end of the presentation. I am sure that there will be opportunity to answer questions or concerns. But the key thing is that this projects such as this, we need to look at it as Karim said earlier on, this is conceived and being implemented as transboundary. All of these concerns cannot stop. Projects cannot stop at the border. So whoever is not pulling away or his way, we have to find a way, design this project, design some kind of intervention to help them bring them, because if we don't complete the pipelines, for example, from Juba, what is the use of the design, the master plan that some of us have seen? It is so integrated, it is well, and now your money is secure. So if I had money, if I wasn't working for the UN, I wouldn't be saying this, because I would keep it to myself and go invest and make a lot of money. but since my job is to let you know that this opportunity arises, and I have been there. I have been there. They said it was dangerous. Don't go there. I have been to Lamo. For over 2-3 days, we were there looking at things. So I'm not selling you anything that I've not seen. Again, if I had money, I would not be telling you. I would keep it to myself and make a lot of money, and there will be another Dangote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yinka. Always very passionate about integrating Africa. And this is where we need to go as a continent. You don't have to be a Kenyan to talk about Kenya. You don't have to be a Nigerian to talk about Nigeria. Neither do you have to be an Ethiopian or a Ugandan or a South Sudanese to talk about the respective countries. We need to look at Africa as one big economy, because Africa has numbers, and there is always strength in numbers. Africa with 1.2 billion people. You look at India, about 1.3 billion people. You look at China, that is towering economically with just about 1.5 billion people. So we are just there. We are there with the numbers. Can we make the numbers work for us? That's what we are saying. Can we open the borders? Can we build infrastructure? Can we attract the rest of the globe to take advantage of Africa's position in the fourth industrial revolution? And that is where we are heading to. This is not my presentation. My presentation will be coming later. Now, I would also like to, I'm going to break a bit of that program to invite Engineer Mumina Washendo of the African Development Bank to make some remarks before NEPAD agency comes on board. There's one very specific reason for that. The African Development Bank is the one sponsoring the transaction advisory for Lamu Port, as well as Lamu Special Economic Zone. There are 7 new terminals which are being considered for development going forward such that when we complete the construction of the first 3 and operations begin, we need to have the next 7 terminals prepared as per the project preparatory facilities that we are already seeing coming up in Africa. So that we don't wait that until those 3 terminals are clogged up, then we start running around saying, can we now build 1 or 2? No. We are planning ahead of time. We are building 3, ready for business. We are planning the next 7. So we'll take the next 5 years planning them and getting the transactions for private sector now to come on board. And we need to prepare them well. And we know that we are working with the African Development Bank and through NEPAD IPPF, these finances are being made available. And this also applies with the Lamu Special Economic Zone. For the industrial base, for industrialists who want to invest in a Lamu Special Economic Zone, which is the largest special economic zone in Africa, we want this to work for us all. Engineer Wachindo, please come on board.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, Minister of Transport from Ethiopia, and all the other distinguished guests, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Kasuku, to be able to stand here in the podium and just make 1 or 2 statements. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Negatu, the African Development Bank's Regional Director General of Eastern Africa, based in Nairobi, and I'm with my colleagues here. And the opportunity to speak to you is an opportunity to make a statement on where we are putting our money. Mr. Denei from EC has made a very good case, and he's right, except that he has made it a case for planners only to be planning the infrastructure project. I'm an engineer who is in banking now, and I want to confirm that engineers are capable too. Yeah. So, but more important is that African Development Bank has been working with LAPSSET from the very beginning, and we work by putting our money. The minister talked very well about what the road has done, and the governor also of Marsabit. We are the one who funded the construction of 1,200 kilometers of road with the government of Ethiopia and government of Kenya from Isiolo to Moyale to Awasa, and now we are funding also the expressway part of it from Awasa to a town called Mojo, which is connecting Addis Ababa with a 4 and 6 lane expressway, which is going to connect the Awasa Awasa Industrial Park, which is in fact powered by a project that the African Development Bank funded in Ethiopia. We are also funding, and I should say, the export of power, energy from Ethiopia on a 2,000 megawatt project, with 1,000 kilometers of transmission line that are connecting Ethiopia with Kenya, so that we can almost double the production of energy in Kenya by exporting it or importing it from Ethiopia. So we have been putting our money in this LAPSSET project from the very beginning. So I wanted to say that even as we have the opportunity to discuss later on in the panel, that the investors who are here can easily follow the example of African Development Bank and put money. We are funding the transaction advisory, which is going to arrange the financial and the structural way of doing the baths from the 2nd probably to the 31st. And we are also doing studies on the feasibility and designs of part of the transport elements of the project. So African Development Bank has gone ahead and invested here. So, I would like to invite all investors to, put money there, because if we have done so, then it must be okay. Furthermore, we have instruments that we'll be talking to you about later, which makes it comfortable for investors, private sector investors, to invest. Because we know, the way risk is perceived in Africa. So we have developed instruments that guarantee against political, risks as well as business risks. And we cooperate with private sector investors to, be able to put investment into projects such as this and others. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. We'll have an opportunity to talk more about what we can do together. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Washendo. And you've had it right from him. And I'm going to invite the representative of the NEPAD APRM to speak to us. And this is none other than Ibra Wahebu. You'll be able to see the spelling of his name on the board. I might not pronounce it in a good way. And I just want to recognize the fact that we have a number of the agencies that are partaking with us in the implementation of the LAPSSET corridor program. As you know, the authority is a coordinating agency, a planning agency, and a project preparatory agency. But we are working with the implementing agency, like the Kenya National Highways Authority is represented here by the Director General. Kindly put up your hand. Yes. We also have the Kenya Pipeline, who are in charge of the pipelines. They are here. We have respective agencies in charge of railways and all the other components. So we are all working as a team. So when you see us here as LAPSSET, you know that there are also other government agencies within the government of Kenya that are working in implementing the program. I hope I've pronounced it.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, DG. Please allow me to say all protocol observed and good morning to everyone. The DG has said before the AFDB talk, he has spoken about numbers and figures. I'm here to talk about social and developmental impact of LAPSSET corridor as a whole. Not the port, not the road, not the rail, the overall corridor. I would like to present to you some initial assessment of the potential of this project to transform Kenya, to transform the region, and to transform Africa through job creation opportunity and boosting local industrialization. The African Development Bank has estimated that we have an infrastructure gap of over $108 billion US, and we know that through the same institution that every year we have millions of youth that require jobs. And for the next 30 years, Africa would need to provide jobs for 400 million young people. These figures, in terms of infrastructure gap and demographic dividend, we can reconcile it. In Kenya, we currently now sitting at around more than 50 million people, and the half of them, which means 25 million, are under 20 years of age. LAPSSET corridor has the response to channel these youth in a huge economic opportunity. I'm here to speak about the optimizing of the job creation for the LAPSSET corridor through an instrument called the PIDA. PIDA is Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, Job Creation Toolkit. So what I will do is I will just go very quickly on the technical background of the tool, and then later on I will provide you with estimate of the job creation. I will present to you the direct job, the indirect job, the induced job, and the secondary job that LAPSSET corridor has the potential to create. And later on I will show you the distribution of those jobs across the member country of the LAPSSET, because like I said, it's a regional project. So the job creation toolkit has been developed by the NEPAD agency through continental and global agenda. The first at the African Union level, there is a strong commitment and will to provide job and to make the necessary policy reform to provide job opportunity for young people on the continent. And of course, the Sustainable Development Goals also clearly stipulate that there is a need to promote sustainable, inclusive, and economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. So this slide presents like kind of best practice when we are trying to estimate job creation potential for infrastructure project. I would do an economy of the technical details. But what I would like to say is we have basically two levels of the job creation. The first is to estimate the figures, and the second level is to translate those figures in terms of economic policy and social policies. Like I mentioned, the tool will provide all the dimension of job creation you can imagine, from the direct job till the induced job and the secondary effect of it. It's a kind of complex economic and national account mathematical models that has been developed, integrated, and it has required huge volume of data on the background to provide with the estimation of the job creation potential. So this said, I will go straight to the job creation opportunities on one of the projects within the corridor, which is the Lamu-Garissa-Isolo Highway. It's a 530 kilometers. You can see this is yearly estimation. I will break down it to the overall life cycle of the project, and the potential is huge. At average per year, the 530 kilometers fully implemented will create 15,000, almost 16,000 jobs per year. And you can see the breakdown, the direct jobs, the indirect jobs, and the induced jobs, and the secondary one. These are the breakdown when you take into account the overall life cycle of the project. So in terms of years job, which means the number of jobs created per year, when you combine it, you will have almost 450,000 jobs that will be created by the road. And this is only one single portion of the highway project of LAPSSET. You can imagine and do the mathematics if you complete or if you finalize the overall highway network within the LAPSSET corridor, and you can have an idea how much job you can create. Now this is for the countries that are involved. And you may ask, but what is South Africa doing here? Because of regional trade. To implement the road, you will have to supply materials sometimes from neighboring country. You may have to supply expertise and others. So these are the breakdown of the 447,000 jobs across the 4 countries that are directly involved in the project. For Kenya, which is the main, if I can call, location of the project, you have a potential of 350,000 jobs, and then the second that will come is Ethiopia. We will have 78,000 jobs, and South Sudan we will have 16,000 jobs, and South Africa 3,000 jobs. I would have to say it's the projection that made them say Sudan instead of South Sudan. The South is like, if we have to enlarge you, the South will come. So we have it in mind. I just want to say it, to state it. And then when you talk about the secondary effect of the job, so these jobs has, if I can say, nothing to do with the direct project, neither the construction or the maintenance or the preparation. No, these are jobs that are created through local business that will be created through local industries, through suppliers, and so on. And it has a potential of 340,000 jobs. If you addition this to the 440, you will reach almost 1 million jobs for the single 530 kilometers highway. So the next one is the job creation potential of Lamu Port. And currently we have estimated the average annual job, and we can do it for all the projects, for all the cycles, and break it down, and we have an annual job creation potential of 25,708. This is just estimate. There is a complete report that we submitted to LAPSSET Corridor Authority. The report is accompanied with policy advices. It has a breakdown of this job creation by sector, the mining sector, the cement sector, the food industries, and with strong policy recommendation on how you can make it happen. So I just want to state again that LAPSSET mission may start with economic transformation, but its deepest core advantage for the overall continent and the region is about social stability and social transformation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Wahubu. Now, you can see that there are elements of scientific analysis of what the LAPSSET corridor program is all about. And maybe you might be starting to ask yourself, why does it look like there is so much analysis, there's so much activity around the LAPSSET corridor program beyond any other project that we've ever undertaken in Africa? This is because this is homegrown. And we as African countries, under the African Union, resolved that we need to build requisite infrastructure to open up Africa for industrialization. And if we are to do this, then we must develop and we must deploy all facets of contributory capacities to be able to put together all this logically, such that anyone from any jurisdiction across the globe should be able to understand us where we are going. It's not just about building a port. It's not just about building a road, but it is actually about transforming the African continent. We know that we missed out in the last 3 industrial revolutions, and we became part of history as the missing link in the global industrial revolution. In the 4th industrial revolution that is powered by technology and rides on infrastructure, this is our moment, and we are taking it fully integrated. And that's why we are having all the institutions of the continent all making a contribution towards and deepening the understanding of the LAPSSET corridor program. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know that you must be asking us to why we are not breaking for tea. I think this is the moment to yield to your asking, but I'm tempted to request Neil Peterson. You don't want to speak, but this is the moment when you could have they could have heard your voice. The voice of oil is actually the voice of transformation. Okay, Neil will speak later. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to request that we take a break for tea, and we come back. I'm requesting that do not go away. In fact, invite others to join you. Do it the other way around.